This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Luke Sylvia and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic! What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is October 10th, 2022. Jonathan Osborne here. Tonight, I'm joined by producer Kevin Tucker. Kevin, what's going on, bro?
Jonathan, doing great. Lots of fun things happening. Obviously, we're excited for the regular season here in a little over a week. But in the meantime, we've got, football's going on. We've got baseball playoffs. We've got Orlando City made the playoffs today, clinched the playoff spot against Columbus. That was fun. The Tampa Bay Lightning, their season gets underway on Tuesday night. Lots of fun things in the world of sports, but yeah, super excited for the regular season next week, though.
The Rays season, just ended. Being a Yankees fan, I'm pretty excited about that. I'm happy that we don't have to play those guys in the next round, because it just would have caused me a lot of stress in my life. But speaking of
we went
people,
15 innings without scoring a run, so I think you probably would have been fine.
Yeah, maybe. You never know. Anytime you play the division rival, it gets a little bit more exciting, but. Speaking of those who have some things going on and are going to be pretty busy between now and the start of the regular season, our Luke Sylvia, obviously not joining us on this episode. Last night around this morning around, I believe it was 2 a.m. when we got the text from Luke. But him and his wife Lauren have welcomed their newest addition that they've been anxiously awaiting, Cole Benjamin Sylvia. Again, today when we're recording this Sunday night. Right around 2 a.m. on October 9th, 6 pounds, 13 ounces. And Luke asked that we just let everyone know that he and Lauren did not name Cole after Cole Anthony, even though I think that's most people's initial reaction. Did you name this kid after Cole Anthony? But no, just super happy and excited for Luke and Lauren. Just a beautiful little boy.
Yeah, I will say, though, if Cole leads us to a championship, Luke might change that, change that in the future, oh, yeah, I totally named it after Cole, Orlando Magic, NBA champions, all that kind of stuff. But no, for real, congratulations to Luke and Lauren, and Harper's got a baby brother now, so that's fun. It's pretty cool, pretty exciting stuff.
Very awesome. So happy for them. And Luke, just try to get as much sleep as you can. It's going to be harder and harder to come by in the weeks to come here. All right, Magic fans, coming up on October 14th at 7 o'clock, the Orlando Magic's final preseason game. We are putting together our very own, the Sixth Man Show preseason group outing get-together, trying to fill the lower bowl as much as we can to get Amway ready for the regular season. If you want to join us on that night, you can purchase tickets at fevo.me/the Sixth Man Show. Again, FEVO is spelled FEVO.me/the Sixth Man Show to purchase your tickets. That's coming up next Friday, Kevin. I'm really excited for that. And then with the start of the regular season on October 19th, we are partnering with the Orlando Magic to have a season opening watch party at Elixir on 9 West Washington Street in downtown Orlando, starting at 6:30. The game starts at 7. There's going to be some Michelob Ultra specials, $4 16-ounce bottles of Michelob Ultra. So if you're a fan of Michelob Ultra like myself and you want to watch the Orlando Magic take on the Detroit Pistons with fellow Magic fans, again, come hang out with us. 6:30, October 19th at Elixir, 9 West Washington Street, downtown Orlando. That's going to be a lot of fun. In other Magic news, Kevin, not as fun as our get-together coming up on the 19th. But Jalen Suggs suffered an injury Friday against the Dallas Mavericks with 4:02 left in the first quarter. Had a little collision with Spencer Dinwiddie and hyperextended his left knee. And we all kind of feared the worst. He left the game immediately, did not return, had some x-rays that night. The x-rays came back negative, which was a good sign. But we knew that we were going to need to get an MRI to see if there was any structural damage. So he does have a left knee capsule sprain and a bone bruise in that left knee. But luckily, Kevin, we kind of dodged the bullet there. Nothing too serious.
Yeah, I think you're maybe being a little bit kind to Spencer Dinwiddie when you just say they had a collision, because this was more than a collision. Spencer Dinwiddie gave him a shove. This is preseason. I thought it was
It was Spencer Dinwiddie's fault. Yeah.
It was 100%. It was excessive. It's completely unnecessary. If this is the regular season, you go, okay, whatever. Preseason, I'm I didn't love that. Didn't love that at all. And yeah, it looked, super awkward. Anytime you get like a hyperextended anything, but even, especially a knee, it just looks awkward. And so we're all, fearing the worst. But luckily, looks like he's going to be okay. Haven't really gotten a timetable exactly, but it's not the worst possible scenario. So that's at least a positive.
I was completely planning on like adding Spencer Dinwiddie on Twitter, be like, "Are you happy now, jerk, idiot, whatever?" Had it been serious. But today the Magic had like a family day at the Advent Health Training Center, brought in like all the players' families and their kids and everything, and just kind of hung out today. I don't think they had a practice, but Jalen Suggs was there and met with reporters, and so did Jamal Mosley, and they kind of asked Jalen like, "Do you feel a certain type of way about that?" And Jalen was like, "No, like even we're taught like if somebody's going to set a screen and you realize that, you want to like divert their path, like you want to knock them off of that path so they can't just go and set a screen on your teammate." And so he's like, "No, it's just a normal play. We're taught to do that too." He's like, "It's unfortunate, but he doesn't like hate Spencer Dinwiddie or anything." So once I heard that, I was like, okay, I can't just like totally kill Spencer Dinwiddie for this. But yes, it was 100% Spencer Dinwiddie's fault. Like he shoves Jalen, and then Jalen gets like jolted forward and just like lands awkwardly. And I think it was it Kobe Price? He spoke to like a orthopedist, I think, just kind of talking about the injury and like how long the injury could take. And I believe it was him or there was one other person I saw tweeting about the injury. I think I might be getting the two confused now, but one of them said had the knee twisted a little bit, like he would have really been in danger for the ACL. And that's what I thought at first, because yes, you see the knee like hyperextend, just like straight back, but at the end you do see it kind of bow outward. And when the lower part of your leg twists inward and then the rest of your body shifts outward, that's kind of where you see that ACL tear happen a lot of the times. So I was just like completely devastated for the rest of that game once that happened to Jalen. But again, there's no timetable. The Magic have said his return will depend on how he responds to treatment. And from what I understand, just reading a bit, is it's really just like a pain thing. Like he's not really at risk of injuring it further or messing up any of the other knee structures, but it just depends on how he does with the pain, because the bone bruise, from what I understand, like the bone like gets like filled with like fluid and blood, and it just sounds terrible. And then the knee capsule sprain, I think that's like the back part of the knee, somewhere around there. But some people say it can just be a couple of weeks. Some people say it can be as much as 6 weeks or a couple months. So we're hoping Jalen is on the quicker end of that, and he just responds to treatment really well, and we can see him. It just sucks because obviously had a rough rookie season, ends his rookie season, misses the first part of the summer with the ankle surgery, and now as soon as he's starting to get back in a rhythm, he's hurt again.
Yeah, and it's also frustrating, I think, for the team. We already talked about this a little bit, but a month ago, 6 weeks ago, we were thinking, man, we got a log jam at the guard position, all these things we got to figure out. And probably by the start of the season, we're only, 9 days away from that. You're going to have some of those questions already answered for you, at least to start the season. We don't know about Markelle if he's going to be back. Gary's not going to be back to start the season. Jalen probably won't be back either by the looks of it. So all three of those guys out, at least for the beginning of the season, that's rough. We're looking forward to kind of seeing how that would shake out. But I guess all in all, it is good. All three of those are relatively minor injuries, and so we'll see them all on the floor eventually.
Yeah, I think for me, like we know that like in November, December, we have that really rough stretch of games, and it's going to be super important for this team to get off to a good start, because you go into the All-Star break and you're 15 to 20 games back. Then the front office is going to start looking around at Victor Wembanyama and Scoot Henderson. That draft is coming up, and the goals around this team might change heading into the end of February and into March. And it's going to be important for this team to get off to a good start to avoid that, and really, winning and staying competitive being the goal late into the season. So hopefully those guys are able to come back, and hopefully everyone else is really just able to hold down the fort. But we're going to talk more about the two preseason games from this week in a little bit more length here in a few minutes. Some more Magic news. The Magic have waived Aleem Ford and Xavier Simpson, and they have signed Alex Morales and Jay Scrubb. Jay Scrubb does have some experience with the Clippers, and he's had some multiple runs in the G League where he's been pretty successful there. And then Alex Morales was, I think, the Defensive Player of the Year last year in the Northeastern Conference, if I'm not mistaken. So these are guys that we don't expect to make the roster. They're just getting some more information on guys as we wrap up, the rest of preseason here. But the Magic did make those 2 transactions. I do kind of like Aleem Ford. I don't know that he's an NBA player, but I do like him. Xavier Simpson, Mr. Captain Hook. Kind of sad to see him go. He looked pretty good at the end of the game on Friday against the Dallas Mavericks. Made some nice plays, but yeah, those guys, we probably figure we're spending the majority of the year in the G League anyways.
Yep, I totally agree. Yeah, we'll see if another team, picks those guys up between now and then. But more than likely, I expect they'll probably stick around with the organization and end up in Lakeland, which I hope they do. They've done well for them, and so we'll see where those guys end up.
Right. All right, we want to take a minute just to shout out the folks that help support the Six Man Show. Those would be our patrons. So if you haven't heard yet, or you just kind of skip over this part of the episode normally, we do have a Patreon where you can select from 3 tiers of benefits that you can help financially support the show, help us do things like upgrade equipment, which we just did. We got some awesome new equipment that's going to help us, covering the team this year. It wouldn't be possible without our patrons. So thank you all so much that do support the show. And then I want to shout out our boy Wiffle. So Wiffle, as his name is here on Patreon, he's really been a supporter of the Six Man Show since day one. Like I don't remember interacting with anyone else on a super regular basis when I first started the podcast back in 2019. Wiffle, he's been one of our Hall of Fame tier patrons for quite some time now. We chat with him on our Discord. I talk with him on Facebook. He comes into our monthly Zooms that we have with our Hall of Fame tier patrons. But he decided that instead of going like month to month, he was just going to go and pay for the whole next year of his Patreon membership. So one of the benefits, obviously, that gives us funds up front that we can use to do things like upgrade equipment. But it also gives you a 15% discount on your membership for the entire year. So if you're going to be a patron, for the next 12 months at least, looking to save a little bit of bread in the meanwhile, you can go ahead and just knock out the whole next year of membership here with our Patreon. And again, that's patreon.com/the Six Man Show. We also shout out all of our Hall of Fame tier patrons on every episode. And for that, I'm going to throw it to Kevin.
Yes, this is my favorite part. Here we go. We're going to shout out our Hall of Fame patrons, and I've been kind of mixing it up, Jonathan. You weren't here for my solo show last week, but I've been kind of doing a different order, mixing up every time. This time we're going reverse alphabetical order, which means we're starting with the guy we just talked about, Wiffle. Shout out to Wiffle for going to annual. We've got Wiffle, the Distract, Teddy Sylvia, Ryan Singh, Pierre A., Norm L., Nate Donnelly, Mr. Mikey, Mig Zors, Michael Salopong, Magic Player History. All right, I got to stop right here because we have this one.
You have to say it.
I'm going to say it. Someone's trolling hard with this, all right? They've renamed themselves on our Patreon as Luke's mom, okay? I'm not going to touch that topic right there. I don't know who it is. I don't know what you're doing. It's clever. It's funny. All right. Luke's mom, Lil Penny, Juan Geraldo, Jonathan Borges. I'm Ron Burgundy, Goaty93, Fuchsia, Franz Goda Fichot, Eric Lopez, Dylan Holden, Dutto15, Drum, Danimal, Court Cousins, Carson Tulo, Brian Leggins, Breadhead, Bobby Skinner, Bailey, and Armin. Shout out to our Hall of Fame patrons and all our patrons for making the Six Man Show possible.
Love it. So, Kevin, 2 weeks this game. We had the Thursday, 2 weeks this game. 2 games this episode. Good grief, man. Luke's the one not getting any sleep, having a baby, and for some reason my brain still doesn't want to work. 2 games this episode since our last recording. So starting with Thursday at San Antonio, the first of the back-to-back here. Really, these 2 games were very, very similar, and I know that we're going to talk about that. But the Magic 2 wins. We know that Magic won the first one 102-99. And I want to start just with the conversation of the starting lineup in this one because we didn't really know what to expect. Once Mo started that first preseason game, weren't really sure what was going to happen. Franz did miss it. Franz was in this one, though, his kind of preseason debut here. So the starting 5, Jalen Suggs, Terrence Ross, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, and Wendell Carter Jr. Kevin, any thoughts on this starting lineup?
Well, yeah, that's the front court a lot of Magic fans want to see opening night, as your starters, the Wendell, Paolo, Franz trio. So that was cool to see them, get the start there. Unfortunately, the start didn't start as well as you would hope. That first quarter was a bit of a mess, and especially against, we talked about it going into that game. San Antonio is just not going to be a good basketball team this year, and so I would have liked to see those starters kind of assert themselves a little better at the very beginning of the game. Obviously, we got back into the game later, but that front court is, I think, what a lot of Magic fans want to see. So obviously, they're still getting used to each other, used to the roles, used to Paolo, all that kind of stuff. But at least they got the start, and we'll see, if they get the start, especially this week with Franz, hopefully playing both games this week, and we'll see how that goes.
So like Kevin alluded to, not a great start in this one. The Magic were down 14 after the first quarter, and then we're down by as much as 19 with 6:44 to go in the second quarter. And then we really started to see like Eurobasket Franz kind of start to take over a little bit, started facilitating a bit, started to score, and it really just got the entire starting lineup in a rhythm. But they went on a 12-0 run that helped them get within 3 at the half. So basically the last 7 minutes of the second quarter, you go from down 19 to down 3, which obviously you feel a lot better going into halftime down 3 than down 19. And then kind of the trend in the first few preseason games here, the second half was mostly like the bench unit, some of those end of the bench guys, some of those guys who, have, now been cut. But it was good to see the team really respond nicely in the second quarter and then into the second half and come out with a win. Now, we've talked about how, the San Antonio Spurs, not supposed to be a very good team this year. It was mostly the same for them. Some of those guys that didn't get into the game in the first half finished out the second half for the Spurs, including Tommy Kuhse, who we saw play Summer League for the Orlando Magic, who looked really good in Summer League, didn't really look quite as good in this game that we're talking about. But yeah, it was concerning that first quarter, especially, Kevin, because we saw the way they looked the entire game really against the Grizzlies. But in Magic fashion, we saw this all last season. Once Jamal Mosley has been the head coach of this team, really, the Magic get down, but they don't give up. They keep fighting, and they find a way to get back into the game. Last season, it was the third quarters. They would just have like a 5 or 6 minute span in the third quarters after they come back into the game, and that would eventually end up losing the game. Now, again, a lot of those guys we saw in the second half aren't guys that we're going to see a ton in second half minutes once the regular season starts, but a win is a win. In this game, it was just really, really encouraging to get a win and not start preseason 0-2.
Yeah, and this is going to kind of bleed into the conversation about the Dallas game, if you'll excuse me. But you talk about the third quarters last year kind of being the Achilles heel for this team. Obviously, it's too early to talk about what the Achilles heel for the team is this year, but first quarters have been concerning, through the first 3 games. If you look back at game 1 against Memphis, you lose that quarter by 4. That's a normal number, but still you lost the quarter, right? Then the San Antonio game, you lost by 14 the first quarter. And then the Dallas game, you lost by 18 in the first quarter. And we'll talk more about that quarter later and Luka and all his magic and all that kind of stuff. But all in all, not only is that a little bit concerning because it's a trend, but it's also concerning because that's when our key guys have played, right? That's been our best players against the other team's best players. And so far, 3 games in, we haven't won a first quarter yet. So that's a little bit concerning. I know it's been an experiment, each and every game, different starters, different rotations. So I'm not going to take too much out of it. But if there was any game where I wanted to get off to a great start, it was that San Antonio game because of the starting front court, because of the opposition. It didn't happen. But like you said, it is definitely great to see the rest of the team kind of rally around. And I shouldn't even say the rest of the team. The starters eventually played better, later on in the game. But especially later in the second half, like you said, when it was the bench and some of the G League guys, that was a lot of fun to see, especially in that fourth quarter. That ended up being a tight, game down the stretch. So they had to make clutch stops, big baskets, and they did that. And so, like you said, great to get on in the win column there. And then obviously that's part 1 of our Texas 2-step that we swept, on Thursday and Friday last week, which was fun.
Just a quick look at the box score. Just want to give a shout out to Wendell Carter, who was incredible in this game. 20 points, Absolutely. 10 ribouns, 8 of 13 from the floor, added 3 assists and 2 blocks. Like Wendell, he had a dunk, I believe it was in this game, that was just disgusting. Just coming down the lane. Like I think took maybe 1 step after the free throw line and just elevated. It was really, really impressive. But yeah, I mean, Everyone else, kind of so-so games. I mean, if you look at Franz Wagner, his first game of the preseason, 12 points, 50% from the floor, 1 of 4 from the three-point line, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal. The most impressive thing for me was just that stretch in the second quarter. It was really Franz that got that whole run going. And it was like, man, like we talked about this all summer long watching Germany with Coach Herbert of the coach of the German national team. Just like put the ball in Franz Wagner's hands and good things happen. And he really does look like he's ready to take a leap. Now we can talk about the game Friday at Dallas, which he did not play because it was the second night of a back-to-back, and they're trying to kind of manage his preseason minutes, just given all the time that he's played. This summer again playing with Germany, but Magic victory 110-105 in Dallas, second night of a back-to-back. Like Kevin mentioned, the Texas two-step there, and the starting lineup in this one: Cole Anthony, Terrence Ross, Chuma Okeke, and I think that was mainly due to the fact that Franz wasn't playing.
Okay,
dang it, Chuma, I'm so sorry, man. It's been like 2.5 years of this, so I'm trying to. I have to retrain myself. Chuma Okeke, my apologies. It still sounds so strange every time I hear it on the broadcast as well, but it is Chuma Okeke. Thank you, Kevin. And then Paolo Banchero, Wendell Carter Jr. I don't think we're going to see Paolo and Wendell moved out of that starting front court there anytime soon. But another slow start for the Magic, down 18 after one. And in this one, they were down by as much as 21 in the first half. But then they go on a 13-0 run to help the Magic get within 5 at the half. Very much the same story as the San Antonio game. Second half, mostly the bench, end of the bench guys. No Luka Doncic. He didn't play in the entire second half, which probably had a lot to do with this comeback because he was destroying the Magic in the first half, which I think you want to talk about a little bit about. But again, good to get a win.
Yeah, I did want to mention that. Like, obviously, we'll talk about the Magic, but man, Luka was toying with us in that first half. I'm not going to lie. Like, I know Luka is a bit of a polarizing figure. Like, some people love him, some people don't necessarily love his antics. And, it's a European certain style, maybe a little bit of flopping, all that kind of stuff, whatever. He's an incredible basketball player. And when he's like just having fun, he is one of the most fun players to watch, like in the league for sure. And so like some of those passes and his vision and his range is limitless. Like, man, he is super fun to watch. And he was having a good time in that first half, which as a neutral, I'm sure it was a lot of fun. But as a Magic fan, you're like, golly, like there's especially a couple of times where just like, how do you defend that? Like he had that super, super long, three from, I guess it was like the left elbow kind of area, like 30 feet or whatever it was. It was insane. So, but yeah, Luka was fun. As far as the game goes, you mentioned it, the slow start, disappointing. But, it's kind of been this trend so far. As far as other guys, on the night, Wendell had a great night Thursday, not a great night on Friday against the Mavs. Went, I guess, 1 for 7 is what I'm looking at, which is a little bit of a bummer. But Paolo, I thought, had some really, really good moments against the Mavs.
Yeah, this was Paolo's best game.
For sure. Yeah, had 19 points. Looked good. Terrence continues to play really well. He has been a bright spot 3 games into this season, like for sure.
He just looks engaged now.
Oh, 100%. I was thinking, like, do I want to go to this conversation right now? I think I'm going to go there. Starting 2 guard? Maybe. I mean, you need offense, you need shooting, and that's what he does. You know what I'm saying? Like he's looked really, really good. It's something to be considered. And like the words Terrence Ross and starter like doesn't compute in Magic fans' brains just because he has been the epitome of a 6 man for us for so long now. And that's not like a negative thing for Terrence. That's just been his role, and he's embraced it, and it's been great. But it's worth considering now, obviously, especially considering the injuries that we have. So anyway, Terrence was great. You know who else was good? Had his best game in a Magic uniform yet? You know who I'm thinking of? Bol.
Yes.
Bol played well. Now, granted, he played really well against the, third string guys against, for the Mavericks. I'm not going to take too much out of it. But in the second half, he did play well, did kind of take over for a little stretch, which was kind of fun. So that was cool to see Bol do that. But yeah, outside of that, obviously Jalen only plays a minute. That's the game we mentioned earlier with Spencer Dinwiddie. The little collision, I think you called it, or whatever, between those two.
Cheap shot.
But yeah. But anyway, lots of positives, especially in the second half. Fun to see a win, and that one was more convincing. The San Antonio game was really close down the stretch. This one, I do think the Mavs got down to 5 with like a minute left or something like that, and then I think it was Mo Wagner hit a 3 that kind of put it away or something like that. But yeah, a win's a win. Got a winning record in the preseason, so definitely some positives to take from that.
Yeah, definitely Paolo's best game by far.
For
19
sure.
points in 21 minutes, 6 of 13 from the floor, 2 of 4 from 3, 5 of 6 from the free throw line. Him getting to the free throw line 6 times, really, really impressive. And then added 5 rebounds, an assist, and a steal to that. 2 turnovers, but he's just had the ball in his hand so much. Like, that's going to happen. But yeah, just the fact that he's looked more comfortable each, of these games. And I think that's just going to continue. And just the conversation really about Terrence at the beginning of the year, when you're talking about like just the rotation as a whole, I didn't even have Terrence like I didn't even know if he was going to be in the rotation. So if your starting lineup looks something like Markel and then Gary or Cole or Jalen, whoever at the 2, Franz, Paolo, Wendell, then you back up some mix of those 3 guards again: Cole, Jalen, Gary, Chuma, Mo Bamba, RJ Hampton, maybe Jonathan Isaac when he comes back, obviously. And then it's like, where does Terrence kind of fit into that? And I think especially now with the injuries to Markel, to Jalen Suggs, to Gary Harris, like Terrence, definitely has to play like just out of necessity. I think the other part of that conversation is just like RJ Hampton. RJ Hampton, not as good of an offensive game, especially this game against the Dallas Mavericks, 3 of 9, but 8 points, 4 assists, 1 turnover. RJ is definitely playing much more under control, making better decisions, and I think that's all that we've been asking out of RJ. Like the last season was definitely knocking down his spot up jumpers when he was open, playing defense at a passable level, sometimes at a high level. And all he needed to do was just kind of slow things down a little bit, not try to do so much. And he's just been moving the ball so well. Like he knows what he's going to do as soon as he gets the ball. It's either I'm going to attack or I'm going to look to move the ball to someone else. And he's just been every single time. It's just like, wow, RJ is just like compounding good decisions over and over and over again. And that just makes you a lot more confident in RJ.
Yeah, which is interesting because of what we saw in the Summer League. Summer League, it was very concerning because of the opposite of that. There was a lot of times where he was indecisive or he was, getting stuck in positions where, especially like he would like jump without knowing where he'd go next and he'd turn the ball over. There were a lot of turnovers, that kind of stuff, So total opposite. And now he's out there against NBA competition and he looks fantastic. He looks very assertive, very confident, very, under control. And so he's definitely continuing to make Jamal's job harder. When you think about all those different guys that we've talked about it, for the last several weeks, but performances like his, performance like Terrence, Jamal's got his work cut out for him. Obviously, it is a little easier now, like we mentioned with those 3 guards out. But yeah, it's definitely making us ask questions, a little more questions about his role, Terrence's role, as far as what their role is going to be this year. And I guess we'll find out in about 9 days or so.
So with 2 preseason games remaining, I kind of wanted to have the conversation with you, just kind of like big picture of what we've seen out of the Magic the first 3 games. I feel like game 1 against the Grizzlies, you almost have to throw that out of the window because it was just so bad.
Yeah.
But the last 2 games, because they're almost like mirror images of one another, I feel like we can kind of form an opinion of the Magic. Like if preseason helps you fill up like your opinion bar 100%. I think we're like maybe 30% of the way there. I think we're going to find out a lot more of these final 2 preseason games than we have the first 3 as the rotation just starts to kind of tighten a bit and look more like what it will look like in the regular season. But what are your early opinions just of the team as a whole?
Yeah. I don't know if I want to start. Let's see. I think I want to start kind of some specific guys, other than the ones that we've mentioned, like some big picture stuff. Mo Bamba started the first game, came off the bench games 2 and 3, which I think a lot of people, when you look at the makeup of this roster, would prefer that. And he played well off the bench. He didn't play a ton, obviously. I think it was like 16 or 17 minutes each night, maybe 20. But he has a role. We've talked about Mo Bamba. He has a role. He's good at a couple of things, like really good at a couple of things. He's a good weak side help defender, rim protector, right? And he's a good 3-point shooter that can draw out the defense, right? And he's done those things really well. He did those things really well in the 2 Texas games. So I think of all the question marks about Mo Bamba starting, I think, again, we try not to take too much from these preseason games, but I think those 2 games prove that he could have not just a carved out role, but an impactful role coming off the bench. I mean, those things are needed in spurts, and he's proven that he could do that. So I thought that was really encouraging, and I hope that is something that continues into the regular season. I don't know. As far as the team as a whole, I think it's still hard missing some of those key guys to pull too much from it. Especially we've only seen Franz once. When we talk about some of the playmakers and creators on this team, not having Markelle, only seeing Franz once, it's still hard to get a good picture of what this team will be this season. But I also, talking about creators, Paolo, his evolution, I guess, over just 3 games, not just his, you talked about earlier, his confidence and his comfort level, but I think also the Magic have been kind of experimenting with how they're going to use him. And I think we've seen that in a lot of different ways, even just through 3 games, whether it's pick and roll or ISOs or whatever. We've seen a lot of different looks, and I think they're kind of testing him out in some ways to figure out, what is he capable of now, as far as what we can do this season with him. And so that's been cool to see. I'm excited to see it this week too. Definitely excited to see home games, 2 home games. That'll be fun. And above all else, I know we're going to talk a little bit more about this, but we've been having all these milestones, right? Going through the off season. We had Summer League, and then we had, media day, then we had training camp and preseason. The next milestone, Jonathan, we have now crossed the threshold without David and Jeff Turner. From here on out, we've got David Steele and Jeff Turner, except for the TNT game. But for the next 83 games, 81 regular season, 2 preseason games, we've got the voices of the Magic back. No more Jumbotron feeds, no more other teams. We can listen to our guys and enjoy it.
But the last time that we were on national television, I believe David and Jeff still had the Bally Sports Florida broadcast. Was that in the press release that they won't?
That is correct. Yeah.
Oh, that's a bummer. Because I will those games. I'll flip back and forth just to see what the national guys are saying, but I still prefer the David and Jeff tandem.
According to the schedule that was released, that they are not upsetting. On that one. Yep.
Yeah, I've really been missing them. Some of these, I try not to be too hard on some of these other broadcasts because, especially, I didn't feel like the Dallas guys were really that bad.
Right.
What game was it that I was like, man, these guys just suck? Was it the Memphis game? I don't know what
I wasn't a huge fan. The only thing I appreciated was that they acknowledged the fact that this team hadn't practiced, basically, and that's why we looked this bad, which I appreciated. But outside of that, it was very partial to David and Jeff. Yeah.
I just feel like I feel like they're the best in the league by a mile. I don't really feel like it's close.
I took us on a side rant there. I apologize. I would like to hear some of your kind of bigger picture reflections on what we've seen through 3 preseason games.
Well, part of the Paolo thing, and I feel like people are overreacting a bit because they're just expecting from day one Paolo to get 20 shots up every single time. And although he probably is the guy that should be taking the majority of the shots, at least eventually on this team, it's not going to happen all at once. He's as good as he is, and he's incredible. It's going to take time for him to get adjusted to the NBA game. He talked about not really being affected by the speed. I'm glad that he said that, but it's an adjustment. You've never played at a level, guys moving this quickly, the game needing to be processed at this level this quickly with this level of athletes before. It's an adjustment. I don't care what anyone says. Unless you're LeBron James, you don't just come into the league 100% ready and good to go. But it has been encouraging, like you said, to see his evolution and to see him being more comfortable over the span of the last 3 games. What I would like to see, especially in these lineups, this team misses Markelle Fultz so much, it's not even funny.
So much.
And on Friday, they released a new Orlando Magic Pod Squad episode. David and Jeff and Dante and George Galante with Jeff Weltman. And they kind of asked him what his thoughts were, on preseason on this roster. And he's like, I don't think this really pertains to anyone else on the team because they're going for this very versatile, positionless style of basketball. But he said it is so evident that Markelle Fultz is the piece that just snaps this whole team into place. And that's just so evident when he's not on the floor, or especially if Cole or Jalen, haven't been on the floor. this team is just lacking like somebody that just puts everyone else in the correct spots. And that's why I was so excited about that run that the team went on with Franz, on Thursday, and then how good the team looked at points with Paolo kind of running things on Friday. And I'm like, we need more of that. Like, as good as Cole is, and I think Jalen can be, right now, I still think without Markel, Franz and Paolo are our best options to just run the offense through them and to facilitate for everyone else. So that's been a big thing for me.
Yeah, and I think it's what's really cool when you add Markel back into the mix and Franz once he's back to playing full time. You can have one of those three guys on the court at all times for 48 minutes. At least I think that should probably be the case. One of those three guys should be on the floor at all times. And I think that has the potential to always give you options, offensively to unlock whatever, depending on who's on the floor with you.
And that's super exciting as long as the team realizes like we have to get the ball in these guys' hands.
Right. Absolutely. It has to play through those guys, when they're on the floor. And so I think the stretches when all three of them are together, though, are going to be really fun, hopefully. But yeah, outside of that, I think one of those three guys has to be on the floor at all times. So we need Markel back ASAP.
And then the other thing for me is like just the slow starts obviously are not great. We saw a lot of that last season, especially like the start of the second halves. But it's been encouraging that they were able to kind of snap out of that and really get into a flow in these second quarters. For me, the biggest thing that I'm going to be looking for in these last two games is, especially at home, the Magic getting off to good starts. Because if we see them get off to slow starts in the game against the Grizzlies, coming up here on Tuesday, and then the final game on Friday against the Cavs, then I'm really going to be concerned about the start of the regular season, because at that point, like 4 games in a row, that is a trend. And that's something that we really need to get away from. I know, potentially without Markel, and as these guys are still kind of figuring out the pecking order and the way that they want to play offensively, at least in the starting lineup, it's going to take some time to really know how they need how to play. But man, you cannot get in 18 and 19 point holes in the first half on a regular basis if this team is going to be competitive at all.
Yeah, and I think it does speak to the mentality of the entire team. Now, again, we've talked about the facts. Second half, mostly bench guys, third string guys, G League guys. But it still speaks to the mentality of the entire team that, like you said, never gave up, never mailed it in, always essentially believed that they could climb back into it. That says a lot. Another thing, I know we'll talk about the upcoming games here in a second, but you mentioned, Tuesday is against Memphis. And if you remember, Memphis really clowned you, it'll be 8 days prior to this game on Tuesday, and so I'm interested to see how we react to that. I still think Memphis is a very good basketball team. And if they play their starters, it probably progressively more minutes as the preseason goes on, like we typically see. Memphis will probably win that game, but I would like to see us compete a little better than we did, last week against them. Hopefully we'll make it a little more of a competitive game on Tuesday night at home.
I think that's a massive benefit. And I forget which game it was, but they were talking during the broadcast about how teams like scheduled their own preseason. So you can schedule like as many or as little games as you want. So the fact that, on the Magic's end, whoever went ahead and scheduled the Grizzlies basically at the beginning and then almost towards the end of the preseason, I really like that, because it's going to give you like a measurement of growth over those, week and a half, 2 weeks. All right, we got destroyed by Memphis, a couple of games ago, and now let's see how they respond, Tuesday at home. Like, if we get destroyed by Memphis again, I'm going to be pretty pessimistic going into opening night. I have to, as much as we don't want to overreact to preseason, getting blown out by the same team twice in the span of 9 days, 8 days, whatever you said it is, that's not great.
Yes, I do want to be careful. Memphis is really good. Like, they're going to be a great team in the West, so I think we should lose to them, but you're right. We should be competitive, more competitive than we were, last week at least.
Yeah, like I don't want, the game to be over, basically heading into the fourth is the way that it felt the other night. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, it was over halftime, it felt like, yeah.
Yeah, so like that game was just like, okay, well, we've been waiting since April for this game, and then it just got super unfun very quickly.
Yeah.
And it was like, all right, well, and then basically Twitter was, Magic Twitter was basically melting down about how bad the team looked. So if we look really good, Tuesday against Memphis, maybe the pendulum will swing the other way and people will be super excited about the team again. But yeah, I mean, the week ahead, Kevin, we can talk about this. Tuesday at 7 o'clock at home versus the Memphis Grizzlies. That game is also going to be on NBA TV, as well as, I would guess, League Pass. And then Friday, again, we are going to be at that game, our little preseason outing, which you can purchase tickets at fivo.me/the Sixth Man Show. Shameless plug there. But that's going to be the preseason finale for the Magic, Friday, October 14th against Cleveland at 7 o'clock. Kevin, what's your prediction for these final two preseason games here?
I think we're going to split it. I think Memphis is going to get us again, unfortunately. But I feel pretty good about Friday against Cleveland. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's the whole six-man show gathering thing. We'll put on a show for that. But no, yeah, I'm going to go 1-1. I think Memphis beats us, and then we win against Cleveland.
I said 5-0 before preseason started, but yeah, I'm gonna say 1-1. I think we probably lose to Memphis again, and then you finish out the preseason on a win against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and then you got basically 5 days. You probably practice about 3 of those days, I would guess, before the regular season starts on October 19th, and just super excited for that. It's going to be a great week for Kevin and I. That Wednesday, I'm going to be at Elixir downtown Orlando for the watch party there. I think it might be a little too early for Luke to step out after having a baby, but we'll see. Maybe he'll make it there. I'm not sure about that. And then Friday, Kevin and I are making the trip to Atlanta to watch the Magic take on the Hawks.
Atlanta, baby.
That game isn't going to be perhaps as drama filled as we thought it was going to be when we booked the tickets for that game, because the whole DeJounte, Paolo drama was going down, but I'm still excited. It's going to be my first ever away, game for the Magic. And then I fly home the next morning. That Saturday, I'll fly into Tampa. My wife will pick me up from the airport, and we'll drive straight out to Orlando for the home opener against the Boston Celtics. So pretty exciting next couple of weeks here, Kevin.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun opening week. It's almost here. It's hard to believe, when you listen to this on Monday, we'll be 9 days away from the start of the season. Man, there's nothing like it. Everybody's 0-0. It's an even playing field. We got 82 games to figure out who's legit and who's not. And so hopefully we'll be somewhere in the mix with, play-in or playoff contention. We need to get healthy first, but hopefully we'll get some of those guys soon. But yeah, super, super pumped, man.
Kevin, give me a starting lineup for Tuesday. Who do you think starts?
Ooh, Tuesday. I hope Franz is back from now on. I think he needs to be getting ramped back up. I know he's, mentally really sharp, having been playing for, so long for Germany, but I hope he's back. So let's put him back in the lineup. Okay, rest of the guys. Selfishly, I still want to see Wendell, Paolo, Franz together. So we'll start with those 3. Jalen's going to be out. So let's do, let's go super offense. Let's go Cole and Terrence. Cole, Terrence, Franz, Paolo, Wendell. Let's do it. It'll be fun.
Okay, so let me ask you this. What do you think is the lineup opening night?
Okay.
Because I think it's that same lineup.
You think so? You think Terrence starts?
I think that's the lineup.
Ooh, yeah. I love that. All right. Markelle, I'm going to assume Markelle won't be back.
Okay, right. All right. Hold on. I got to rethink things.
I assume Markelle won't be back.
Okay. I thought you were going to say you think he is going to be back. Okay.
No, I assume he will not be back. Because if he is back, I don't know, maybe he doesn't start. Maybe he has to ramp back up into playing shape. Because let's not forget, we should talk about this for a second. Let's not forget, when Markelle comes back, Markelle did not have training camp or preseason. And we know what this front office / coaching staff does when they bring guys back, okay? Even if it's a minor injury, I don't expect him to start game 1, especially if he had training camp and preseason and then this happened, maybe. But I expect him to slowly bring him back off the bench for a couple games, 20 minutes or whatever, then starting lineup. So Magic fans, slow down. Just be prepared for that. It's going to happen. So hopefully in the next couple weeks when he comes back, then he ramps back up to starting. But just be prepared for that, okay?
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that. But yeah, opening night, I think it is Cole, Terrence, Franz, Paolo, Wendell. I just think, a lot of those guys have, played together a good bit at this point. It's the lineup that we saw the other night. It's probably our best starting lineup right now when you think about all of it. I don't know. Some people are talking about RJ in the starting lineup, which I wouldn't hate because it does give you a little bit of shooting. It gives you another, shooter, next to, Paolo and Franz, but so does Terrence. Terrence just has more experience. RJ has been making, some better decisions as of late, but I want to see some more of that before I'm like, yeah, go ahead and throw RJ kind of into the starting lineup.
Yeah, and I especially want to see RJ against other teams' backups. I think that's a definitely a good spot for him. And I just love the way Terrence is playing right now. Like Terrence is playing really well, getting to his spots, playing confident. And I also I can picture him playing really well as far as spacing wise goes with like Paolo. He's been really finding those pockets. Not just, we talked about this last episode, not just the threes, but also like the mid-range jumpers, which is just almost automatic with Terrence. Like he's so good at those. And so I think having him in the starting lineup, that could be kind of fun.
I find it genuinely crazy that Terrence went from, basically in May wanting to be traded to drafting Paolo, and now he's like as happy as he's ever been being here. I find that really crazy that made that much of a difference.
Hey,
for a guy that's been in the league for 11 years is like, you know what? I want to stay now. And he is actually legitimately engaged. We saw this Terrence Ross, I would say probably less than 5 games last year. He had some good performances, but I mean like genuinely locked in, like involved in the offense, looks excited to be here. That just did not happen a lot last season. It's really, really good to have him back, and it's been a lot of fun in preseason, and I hope it continues, obviously. Last couple of items, again, before we end the pod here. Coming up on the 14th, the final preseason game for the Magic, 7 o'clock at home versus the Cavs. Come out to our preseason get-together. Sit with us in the lower bowl and cheer on the Orlando Magic. You can purchase your tickets at fevo.me/The Sixth Man Show. Fevo is spelled FEVO.me/The Sixth Man Show. And then the season opener on the road for the Detroit Pistons, downtown Orlando, October 19th, 6:30 at Elixir. That's 9 West Washington Street, downtown Orlando. We're going to be hanging out there, official watch party of the Orlando Magic and the Sixth Man Show. And there will be some $4 16-ounce Michelob Ultra specials. Make sure that you guys come out. That's going to be a lot of fun. Kevin, anything else before we sign off here?
I think that's it.
That's
very excited,
do it.
Like I said, to hear David and Jeff Tuesday night. That'll be fun.
And we don't have to search for the game. You just turn to Valley Sports Florida, and there it will be.
Yep, there it shall be until April. And then we'll go to like ESPN or TNT for the playoffs or whatever.
That
not as good as Fox Sports Florida.
Oh, yeah, that's the best.
Yeah.
I miss it. That's right, baby. All right, that's going to do it for us. For producer Kevin Tucker, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You guys are listening to The Sixth Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya. Thanks for listening to The Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!
Right.